I survived the stroke. My family didn't survive me. What would you do if staying alive slowly erased your place inside your own home? My name is Arthur. I'm 64 years old. And lately, I feel like a man who died but forgot to stop breathing. The stroke didn't just take my arm or my speech. It took my place at the table, my voice in the room, and the love that once filled this house. The people I built my life around didn't know how to live with the version of me that survived. Before I tell you how that happened, take a moment to make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because stories like mine are the ones people often stop listening to in real life. I used to be the man who held the sky up for everyone else. I was the architect who designed the skyline of the city, the father who never missed a recital, the man who used to run before sunrise while the rest of the house still slept, and the husband who knew exactly how my wife, Eleanor, liked her coffee at 6 in the morning. But now, as I sit in this motorized chair that hums like a dying hornet, I realize that the man I was died on a Tuesday afternoon in the hallway of my own home. What remains is a ghost that eats, breathes, and occupies space. I am a shadow cast by a body that no longer obeys me. My left arm hangs like a useless weight. My speech is a thick slurry of vowels that I have to fight to release. And my dignity has become a currency I can no longer afford. For months, I believed that the love I had built over 30 years would be the safety net that caught me. I was wrong. Love, it seems, has a very short shelf life when it is forced to carry the weight of a broken man. The silence is the first thing you notice when you become a burden. It isn't a peaceful silence. It is a heavy, suffocating blanket of things left unsaid. Before the stroke, my house was a symphony of noise. My daughter Sarah laughing about her chaotic law firm, my son Julian arguing about sports, and Eleanor humming as she gardened. Now, when I enter a room, the symphony stops. The air thickens with a sudden, sharp awkwardness. I see the way they look at each other, that quick, darting glance that says, "Who is going to help him this time?" They think I don't see it because my eyes are heavy and my face is partially frozen, but I see everything. I see the pity that turned into frustration, and the frustration that is now curdling into something much darker, resentment. The stroke didn't just paralyze my side, it paralyzed their affection for me. I remember the first few weeks after I came home from the hospital. The promises were as thick as the medical bills. "We're going to get through this, Dad," Julian had said, squeezing my good hand. "It's just a phase," Sarah whispered, kissing my forehead. They spoke as if I were a child who had scraped his knee, not a 64-year-old man whose brain had short-circuited. Eleanor was the most determined of all. She organized the physical therapy, the speech exercises, and the endless mountain of medications. But then, the weeks turned into months. The phase didn't end. My progress was a slow crawl, a millimeter of movement in a finger that took weeks to achieve. And as the reality of my permanent disability set in, the masks began to slip. The smiles became tighter. The "I love yous" became mechanical, like a chore they had to check off a list before they could go back to their real lives. The routine is a slow assassination of the soul. Every morning, I wait for someone to wake up and help me out of bed. I wait for someone to help me use the bathroom. A process so humiliating that I often wish I had simply stayed in the darkness of the stroke. I wait for the spoon to be brought to my mouth because my right hand shakes too much to hold it steady. I am an observer in my own life. I watch the clock on the wall, the ticking sound echoing to the hallway, marking the seconds of a life I no longer recognize. I hear the whispers in the kitchen. They think I can't hear them because I'm in the living room, but the house carries sound like a conspirator. One evening, I heard Julian's voice, sharp and tired. "How long can we keep doing this, Mom? I have a career. Sarah has the kids. We're spending every weekend here lifting him, cleaning him. It's not a life for any of us." Eleanor's response was a long, jagged sigh. "I know, Julian. I'm exhausted. I haven't slept through the night in 3 months. Every time he moves or coughs, I'm up. I feel like a nurse, not a wife." Those words were a knife to my chest. I wanted to scream that I didn't choose this. I wanted to tell them that I would give anything to be the one taking care of them again. But all that came out of my mouth was a low, guttural groan. I heard them go silent. I heard the footsteps approaching. When Julian walked into the room, He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You okay, Dad? Need some water?" He didn't wait for an answer. He just set a glass down and walked away. He didn't see the tear that rolled down my cheek. He didn't want to see it. As the months bled into a year, the abandonment became more than just emotional. It became structural. My opinions, once the cornerstone of family decisions, were now irrelevant. They began talking about me in the third person while I was sitting right there. "Does he want to go to the park?" Sarah would ask Eleanor. "I don't think he's up for it today." Eleanor would reply, "I wanted to shout, 'I want to go. I want to see the sun.'" But the effort to form the words was too great, and by the time I opened my mouth, they had already moved on to discussing the price of the new physical therapist. I became a piece of furniture, a heavy, expensive, and inconvenient armchair that no one knew where to put. The physical therapy sessions, which were supposed to be my path back to the world, became a source of immense guilt. Every time the therapist arrived, I saw Eleanor look at the checkbook. I saw the way she winced at the cost. I started to refuse the exercises. I started to pretend I was more tired than I was, thinking that if I stopped trying, they would stop spending money on a lost cause. But then the guilt would flip. If I didn't get better, I would stay a burden forever. I was trapped in a paradox of misery. I was a prisoner in a body that was failing and a home that was fading. The walls of our beautiful suburban house, which I had worked 40 years to pay for, now felt like the bars of a very comfortable cage. The turning point came during the Thanksgiving holiday. Usually, our house was the center of the universe. This year, the atmosphere was clinical. My grandchildren were told to be quiet because Grandpa is resting, which really meant, don't go near the man who looks scary and smells like medicine. I sat at the head of the table, but I was a ghost at the feast. I couldn't cut my own turkey. Julian did it for me, his movements hurried, his eyes fixed on his own plate. I saw the way Sarah tucked her hair behind her ear, a nervous habit she had since she was a girl. Whenever I tried to join the conversation, my speech was slow, and they would finish my sentences for me, often incorrectly, just to move the dialogue along. I felt the urge to knock the glass off the table just to make them really look at me, to make them see the man inside the wreckage. That night, after the guests had left and the house was quiet, I heard the final blow. I had managed to wheel myself to the doorway of the study, hoping to find a book I could try to read with my tired eyes. The door was ajar. Eleanor and Julian were looking at brochures, glossy, colorful brochures with pictures of smiling old people in gardens. "The Golden Oaks," Julian read aloud. "It's top tier, Mom. They have 24-hour nursing. Heat of people his own age. And you could breathe again. You could go visit your sister in Florida." Eleanor was crying, but it wasn't the cry of someone losing a husband. It was a cry of someone finally being allowed to drop a heavy weight. "Is it cruel?" she whispered. "No," Julian replied firmly. "What's cruel is him living like this and us dying alongside him." I backed away into the shadows of the hallway. They were planning to dispose of me, the house I built, the family I raised. It was all being recalculated. I was a line item on a budget that no longer balanced. The cruelty wasn't in the idea of a nursing home. It was in the clinical way they discussed it, as if I were a problem to be solved rather than a human being with a heart that was still beating, however irregularly. I realized then that my presence was a constant reminder of their own mortality and the fragility of their comfortable lives. They didn't hate me. They hated what I had become, and they couldn't separate the two. The weeks following that discovery were a blur of coldness. I stopped trying to speak. What was the point? Every word was a struggle, and no one was listening anyway. I watched them pack my things into boxes. When they thought I was napping, they were decluttering, they said. They were actually erasing me. They took the photos off the mantle, the ones of me hiking in the Rockies, the ones of me at my graduation. They replaced them with vases and candles. They were preparing the house for a life without the burden. I felt a strange, cold clarity. If I was to be a ghost, I would be a silent one. I would not give them the satisfaction of a fight. I would let them see exactly what they were doing. The day they took me to Golden Oaks, it rained. A cliche, I know, but the sky felt as gray as my future. Julian drove. Eleanor sat in the back with me, holding my hand, but her grip was light, tentative, as if she were afraid my condition might be contagious. We pulled up to a building that looked more like a hotel than a hospital, but the smell gave it away. Bleach and jasmine, the scent of managed decline. As they wheeled me through the lobby, I saw others like me, men and women with vacant stares, parked in hallways like forgotten luggage. The staff smiled with practice, hollow warmth. "Welcome, Arthur. We're going to have so much fun," the nurse said. I wanted to spit. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just looked at Eleanor. She couldn't meet my eyes. She busied herself with the paperwork, her hands trembling. Julian was checking his watch. He had a meeting at 4. They stayed for an hour, helping the staff arrange my 3 boxes of belongings in a room that felt like a shoebox. When it was time to leave, Eleanor kissed my cheek. "We'll be back on Sunday, Arthur. I promise." Sunday, 5 days away. For 30 years, we hadn't spent 5 hours apart. Now I was being rationed. Julian patted my shoulder. "Take it easy, Dad. This is for the best." And then they were gone. The sound of their footsteps retreating down the linoleum hallway was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a door closing on my life. In the facility, I discovered a new kind of cruelty, the cruelty of being handled. The nurses were efficient, but they weren't gentle. They moved my limbs as if they were pieces of wood. They bathed me with a detachment that stripped away the last of my privacy. I was no longer Arthur the architect. I was room 212. I spent my days by the window, watching the cars go by on the highway. Each car represented a person with a destination, a person with a purpose. I had neither. I began to realize that my family hadn't just moved me. They had discarded the memory of who I was. On the Sundays they visited, they spoke about their lives, the promotions, the school plays, the new car. They spoke as if I were a distant relative they were catching up with, not the man who had been the center of their world. One Sunday, Sarah brought my grandson, Leo. He was 6. He looked at me with a mixture of fear and curiosity. He stayed by the door, refusing to come closer. "Go on, Leo. Give Grandpa a hug," Sarah urged. The boy shook his head. "He doesn't look like Grandpa. He looks like a doll." Sarah laughed nervously and apologized, but the boy was right. I was a doll, a broken one that no one wanted to play with anymore. That was the last time they brought the children. It was too hard on them, Eleanor explained later. What she meant was that it was too hard on her to see their reaction. It was easier to keep the two worlds separate. The world of the living and the world of the lingering. The abyss of loneliness is not a dark pit. It is a bright, sterile room where nothing happens. I started to notice how the other residents faded. A woman in the room next to mine used to cry for her daughter every night. After a month, she stopped crying. She just sat in her chair, staring at the wall. I realized that the spirit doesn't die all at once. It erodes. It is worn down by the indifference of the world. I fought it for a while. I tried to do my exercises alone in my room. I tried to use my left hand to grip a ball, but without an audience, without someone to care if I succeeded, the motivation evaporated. I was becoming the very thing they feared, a hollow shell. Then came the day of the anniversary, 35 years of marriage. I waited all morning. I had managed to ask a nurse to help me buy a small card from the gift shop. I had spent 3 hours using my shaky right hand to scrawl, "I love you," inside it. It looked like a child's handwriting, but it was the most honest thing I had ever produced. Noon passed. 3 o'clock passed. At 5 o'clock, the phone in my room rang. It was Eleanor. "Arthur, honey, I'm so sorry. The car broke down and Julian is stuck at work. I don't think I can make it out there today, but I'm thinking of you. Happy anniversary." The line went dead before I could even try to say her name. I looked at the card on my nightstand. It felt like a mockery. The realization hit me then, cold and absolute. I wasn't just a burden. I was a memory they were trying to forget. My survival was an inconvenience to their grieving process. They wanted to mourn me while I was still alive so that when I finally died, the work would already be done. The cruelty wasn't the neglect. It was in the slow, methodical way they were extracting themselves from my existence. They were moving on, and I was the anchor they were cutting loose. I felt a sudden, sharp spark of anger. The first thing I'd felt in months that wasn't sadness or shame. That anger became my only companion. I started to observe the facility with a new perspective. I saw the way the Golden Oaks was designed to keep us invisible. The high fences, the beautiful landscaping that hid the barred windows, the soft music that drowned out the occasional moans of the residents. It was a warehouse for the discarded, and my family had paid top dollar to ensure I was stored in the finest aisle. I began to refuse their calls. When they visited, I feigned sleep. If they wanted a ghost, I would give them a haunting. I watched the guilt flicker in Eleanor's eyes during those silent visits. She would talk for 20 minutes about nothing, her voice rising in pitch as she tried to fill the vacuum I created. Good, I thought. Let her feel the weight of the silence I live in every day. But anger is an exhausting fuel. Eventually, it burned out, leaving only a cold, hard cinder of resignation. I am 65 now. In the eyes of the world, I am an old man, though my mind still remembers the strength of my youth. I remember the way the wind fell on my face when I ran marathons. I remember the weight of my children in my arms when they were babies. Those memories are my only true possessions now. My family has the house, the money, and the freedom. I have a room with a view of a parking lot and a card that says, "I love you," in a language no one speaks anymore. The stroke didn't destroy me. The aftermath did. It revealed the fragile architecture of human connection. We like to believe that our families are built on granite, but for many of us, they are built on the shifting sands of utility. As long as I was useful, I was loved. When I became a cost, I became a stranger. I often wonder what would have happened if the roles were reversed. If Eleanor had been the one to fall in that hallway, would I have been stronger? Would I have been more patient? I want to believe I would have. But the bitter truth is that I will never know. I am the one on the other side of the glass now. There is a certain peace in knowing the worst has already happened. I no longer wait for the phone to ring. I no longer hope for a miracle in my physical therapy. I have accepted my role as the family's secret shame. I watch the sun set over the highway, the orange light reflecting off the windshields of people rushing home to their dinners and their arguments and their loud, messy, beautiful lives. I wish them well. I wish them a long life of health, for their sake and for the sake of those who love them. Because I know now that the greatest cruelty is not being forgotten after you die. It is being forgotten while you are still sitting in the room. My name is Arthur. I was an architect. I was a father. I was a husband. Now, I am a burden. And in the quiet of room 212, I have finally learned how to carry that weight alone. The family that was supposed to be my strength became the force that broke what was left of me. But in this brokenness, there's a strange final independence. They can no longer hurt me because they no longer have the power to define me. I am the master of this small, silent kingdom. And as the moon rises over the parking lot, I close my eyes and imagine I am walking, not toward them, but away. Away from the expectations, away from the pity, and away from the family that found my weakness more offensive than my death. The story of my life didn't end with the stroke. It ended with the first time my daughter looked at her watch while I was trying to tell her I loved her. It ended with the first time my wife referred to our home as her house. It ended with the realization that love is often just a shadow of convenience. If you are reading this or hearing my voice in your mind, look at the people you love. Look at them when they are strong. But more importantly, look at them when they are broken. Because the measure of family isn't how they celebrate your victories, but how they handle your ruins. Don't let your loved ones become ghosts before they are gone. Don't let the silence be the only thing you leave them with. I sit here now, the hum of the chair my only music. I have stopped looking at the brochures for Golden Oaks. I have stopped looking at the photos of a man I no longer recognize. I am simply Arthur, and that has to be enough. The cruelty of my family destroyed the man I was. But it couldn't touch the man who remains, the one who remembers everything, the one who still feels the sting of the rain, and the one who, despite everything, still knows how to say goodbye. This is my life after the stroke. This is the reality of being a burden. It is a lonely path, but it is mine. And in the end, that is the only thing the stroke and my family couldn't take away. If this story touched your heart or made you reflect on your own family, please consider sharing your thoughts in the comments. We all have stories of love and loss, and sometimes speaking them out loud is a first step toward healing. Don't forget to subscribe to Emotional Life Tales, Voices After 50, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story. Your support helps us give a voice to those who have been silenced by time and circumstance. Thank you for listening.